Desirea Ann Ferris was an 18-year-old from Liberty, Missouri. She lived with her mom and was very close to her older sister, Samantha. On May 1st, 2017, Desiree and her sister left early and spent the day with a guy they had just met. Later, Samantha came home. Early the next morning of May 2nd, Desiree was allegedly dropped off in South Kansas City. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Densel, and this is Unfound. It seems so simple. We do it every day. We drop things off. Our kids at school. Well, your kids, I don't have any. Our laundry to get dry cleaned. Our cars to get worked on. And since it's that time of year, our tax records at our accountant. We do it without thinking. We put things we value in the hands of others because we trust them. But it continues to amaze me, even after 115 cases, how many quote-unquote drop-offs of people end up as missing persons cases. It's right up there with the husband waking up to find his wife gone, but her purse, her keys, her phone, and car are still there. But he's like, quote-unquote, she took off with her boyfriend. Yeah, sure she did. I bring this up because in the disappearance of Desirea Ferris, we have a couple of drop-offs. Most importantly, the one in which Jason Keegan claims he left Desiree at an intersection in South Kansas City in the early morning of May 2nd. We have another suspicious one, though, in which another man didn't drop off Desiree's sister right at her home the day before, instead choosing to let her out down the street. Yet Samantha is still here, and Desiree has dropped off the radar. And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Goodsite, charlieproject.org. Desiree's parents got divorced when she was young. She spent a lot of time with both parents, but she was raised primarily by her mother, Patty. Everything seemed to be going well for Desiree until she reached 15 years old. From there, she started a downward trend to the point where the last men she was around before she disappeared were known criminals with extensive records and outstanding warrants. So on May 1st, 2017, the day before Desiree's disappearance, she and her sister Samantha left their house with one of these men. The exact itinerary for that day is still unclear, but in the evening Samantha came home while Desiree seemingly chose to stay out longer. Yet Samantha wasn't dropped off at her doorstep by one of the men. Instead, she walked the last block or so on her own. After that, phone records show that Desiree spent some time at the house of Mark Zola until the early morning of May 2nd. Details once again are unclear, but at some point Jason Keegan picked Desiree up and drove her to South Kansas City. Phone pings verify this story. He says he dropped her off at an intersection near where they both knew people. Desiree was never seen again, and her phone was shut off at approximately 4 a.m. that morning. Due to the nature of the crowd around Desiree, believable stories are hard to come by, but these are the main issues that continue to make this case unsolved. Number 1, a truck that Desiree rode in that night that disappeared for a year until it was found in the parking lot of a chop shop. Number 2, a lack of transparency by those who should seemingly have nothing to hide in this investigation. And number 3, a felon who will be in jail for many years to come, but has refused to talk about Desiree's disappearance, even though it could possibly lead to a reduced sentence. The Ferris family believes foul play is the reason for Desiree's disappearance. The guest for this episode is Desiree's stepmother, Jennifer Ferris. Unfound News. This Sunday, February 10th, the first Patreon live show is coming, 7 p.m. Eastern. Available to anyone supporting Unfound at the $12 tier and higher. What we'll be doing there is analyzing the case from the preceding Friday. So this Sunday, I will be talking to the viewers about their opinions of Desirea Ferris' disappearance. It won't be so much me doing most of the talking, but me having a conversation with a smaller group. asking what they think happened, what the family should do next, etc. I hope you will consider becoming a patron. Next, if you missed this past Wednesday's YouTube live show on February 6th, I talked about my conversation with Mr. Nelson. Yes, Juanita's father. It happened during the Super Bowl, roughly from the end of halftime until the beginning of the fourth quarter. This was arranged through Katie, last Friday's guest. I wouldn't call the conversation cordial, but Mr. Nelson and I didn't yell or swear at each other either. If you'd like to know the details of that phone call, please go to the YouTube channel and find the February 6th live show. And finally, thank you for bearing with my less than 100% voice. It was a factor in last week's episode and now this week's as well. Mild case of bronchitis. Got it while I was in Pennsylvania. I actually feel fine, except for the occasional coughing and that stuff getting hung up on my vocal cords. Hopefully it will go away soon. Very soon. Where you can find Unfound. Unfound supports accounts on Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Contribute to Unfound at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. This week I need to thank Michael, Whitney, and Jessica. You can also contribute at PayPal, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. That is also the email address. The website, unfoundpodcast.com. Merchandise, the books at amazon.com in both ebook and print form. Don't forget the reviews. Shirts at myshopify.com. Cards at makeplayingcards.com. And please mention Unfound at all true crime websites and forums. Thank you. I'm so fortunate to have on this episode of Unfound the stepmother of Desirea Ferris, Jennifer Ferris. Jennifer, welcome to Unfound.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Jennifer. Let's start here. Maybe a few months ago, we had an actual mother-in-law who was a guest, but I think this may be only the second time, maybe, that we've actually had a stepmother on the program. You're the stepmother of Desiree. Explain that.
Wow. Well, when Desi came missing, I've known Desi and been around her since she was probably almost 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of different things when we found out she was missing. A lot of it is just I love her and we miss her and she needs to come home. She needs to come home with her mom and she needs to come home with our family. She just needs to be where she's supposed to be. And if this was one of my own biological kids, I would do the same thing as what I do for Desi.
Right.
The outcome, it would be exactly the same. I love the girl like she's my own. I've always loved her. Her and I didn't always see eye and eye, especially, a few years leading up to this. But I always loved her and that never changed.
So you were married to her biological father?
Correct. I was married to her biological father.
Okay. And my understanding is you're not married anymore? And we're not here to get into that, but just so that listeners understand.
Right. We are no longer together.
Okay.
We did not survive.
All right.
I can see where a lot of families, when they go through a lot of, a tragic or traumatic episode of, why they don't stay together. So no, we did not make it through. He saw differently than the way that we were handling Desiree, and I can't speak for him, of course, but he handled it in a complete different way, and we just could not make it work.
Okay. And how old was she when you married? How old was Desiree when you married her father?
Gosh, she was in kindergarten, so 5.
5 years old.
5 years old.
And so you knew her for about 13 years before she disappeared.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. And she was a little girl. And what was she into? What are the words maybe that come to mind? And like you said, maybe later in those last couple years, things are a little different. But maybe when she was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, something like that, what are some of the words that you would use to describe her?
She has one of the best personalities I have ever seen on a kid. And, she was always, helpful and always happy, and her laugh is completely contagious. And if you hear her laugh, you would be doing the same by the time you were done with it. I have five biological kids of my own, and one of them was only a few months older than younger than Desiree.
Mm-hmm.
And so her and my daughter Sydney were two peas in a pod, and then we added Chloe, who is just Desiree. Desiree loved her, and Chloe idolizes Desiree. So it's been a real void for our entire family to have to go through this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what was Desiree into as a little girl?
Oh gosh, shopping, brats, just taking care of Chloe. She loved the babies. I've done daycare the entire time that I, was with Desi. I run a daycare, and just always wanted to be around the kids, around the family. She loved to swim. We'd do, the swimming thing, the world's of fun, oceans of fun here in Kansas City. It's just a very energetic kid. Just always had fun.
Now, we should be clear that Desiree does have some fully biological siblings, and what are their names?
Correct. She has full-blood siblings named Samantha, Hunter, and Desi. Or I'm not Desi. Samantha and Hunter. And she has a half sibling, which would be Kayla and Chloe. And then she has 4 step brothers and sisters, who are Michael, Mackenzie, Sydney, and Preston.
Wow, that's a lot of kids.
Big blended family. Yeah, it was always a big blended family.
It's a lot of kids, a lot of names to remember, Jennifer.
That is a lot of names.
Okay, great. Okay. And did your husband, her biological father, did he have primary custody, or did her mother, whose name is Patty, did she have primary custody in their arrangement?
Patty had primary custody, and then the normal visitations were on the weekends, and we just always had them whenever Desi and Hunter, the kids, wanted to be over. They would always be over. It was pretty a pretty normal setup of the every other weekend and holiday type thing. My ex works for a company that he is not home for a couple of days, and then he's gone for a couple of days. So when they would come up on their weekends, sometimes it would be just me that had them on the weekend, and I was always the caregiver, always her caregiver.
Now we should be clear, Hunter is a boy, not a girl. There's Samantha. Hunter is a boy.
Samantha is a girl, Hunter.
Right. Okay. Just to make sure, because I know there are some Hunters who are girls out there too. And my understanding, though, is maybe he spent more time at your place than Samantha and Desiree did. Is that true? Or
he did?
He did.
Yeah, he did. Towards the end, he moved in with me like his senior year and graduated from Kearney. So I actually had the opportunity to live with Hunter, and I am still grateful for that opportunity to be able to live, have him live with me and get to know him even better. So I never had that opportunity with Desi, even though I would have loved that too. I never had that with her.
Right. So Samantha and Desiree, they spent most of their time with their mother, but you got to see Hunter maybe a little bit more than you did the two girls.
Right. Okay. Especially as Hunter got old. When they were younger, no. When they were younger, it was the every other weekend and holiday thing. But then as they got a little bit older, then Hunter would be over a little bit more often, and he's a good kid too.
Okay. How did those three get along? Being that they were the 3 biological siblings, how would you say they got along? What you saw?
Oh, they got along great. Yeah, all of our kids got along great. All of them did.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Still do.
Okay. But as we know, Desiree at some point took a turn the wrong direction, I guess you'd say. I know that, of course, like you said, she was really raised by the mother. You said the normal custody arrangements, but do you personally, as her stepmother, maybe remember the first time that you thought, well, I don't know what's going on here?
Yeah. It was about a year and a half before Desi went missing that I really kind of started to notice, my kids would bring things to me off of social media, and show me some different things that she had posted. And, you know, I kind of knew at that point that she was heading in the wrong direction. At that time, she was still coming to my house over the weekends, you know, and she would still come for holidays, but even that slowed down. And when that started to slow down, that's when I really, you know, started questioning, you know, is she okay? Is everything going on? You know, what is she doing? So, you know, I could only do so much from being the stepmom
Sure.
point. There's
Totally
so
true.
much a step can do, and I tried to intervene and have my ex-husband, you know, try to call her and just be there more often for her, and she really just did not want anything to do with it. You know, she had her life. She had her life. She was enjoying being able to do what she wanted to do, and there is no kid at her age that's going to want to come up and stay with the stepmom. So,
Right.
you know, I knew about a year to a year and a half before she went missing that there were some questions about what was going on.
Right. Okay. And do you know that if her mother maybe tried to talk to her, and the listener should know I did attempt to talk to Desiree's mother, Patty. I called her a couple times, but she did not return my calls.
Right.
So, do you know if she tried to intervene? And I mean, even though you're the stepmother, you know, one of those times that she was over at your place, did you try to, you know, just gently talk to her? Or was it beyond hope?
I did. The problem with that was is that I raised my kids differently, and I asked I asked a million questions. I always have, and I'm not my kid's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be, you know, I'm not their best friend, and I will question about every choice that they make, you know, especially around her age. Patty and I did not get along at the time, so I don't know what was going on behind their closed doors. I only know
Right.
what was going on, you know, behind mine.
Right.
When I noticed that she was going downhill, I begged her to move to Kearney and, you know, try to get her through high school, and she didn't want any part of it. I mean, she, you know, and her home is where her mama is. I mean, that's
Right.
where her home is, you know, so I can't blame the kid for that.
Right.
She had it the way she was getting to do what she wanted to do, and that's how she wanted it.
Right. And it should be known though that you and Patty get along better now.
We do. We're
Mm.
standing side by side through this entire thing, and you know, we're gonna follow it through and finish it to the end until we find her. So yeah, we work together
Okay.
on this.
Okay. Good. Good. And I realize, I mean, I'm not married. I've never been married, but I'm sure a lot of listeners have been married, maybe on their second or third marriages. They know how things can be between the ex-wife and the new woman, and and men, ex-men and ex-husband and new man. So I'm sure they understand what you're saying here. No problem.
It's
Um,
exactly how. Yeah.
okay. Um, Desiree at some point did get into drugs. Did you ever see them? Do you know what she was into? And is this
No,
something that did that go along right with the downturn, or do you think that happened later? Was it all
no,
together?
you know, I really didn't know what drug or what drug scene she was into. I knew nothing
Mm-hmm.
about where she was hanging out at or who she was hanging with. I had heard a couple of the names, but never really questioned it because I, you know, didn't know who it was that she was with. So
Mm-hmm.
there was a few names that I had heard, but I had no idea how involved until she went missing, and then we started looking into her whereabouts and who she was with at the time and all that. So no, I did not know who they were.
Okay. Now you did say that Hunter maybe spent a little more time at your house. I mean, did you ever talk to him? Was he older than Desi? Older than her?
He is old.
Older?
He's
Eh,
old. Yeah.
okay. Did you ever have any conversations with him? If you feel comfortable saying, you do not have to say. But did you ever have any conversations with him
No,
about Desiree and your concerns?
no, because I didn't feel like it was something that he should have to bear
Mm-hmm.
me or not.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense, I didn't feel like it was his place or my place to ever even question one of the kids about what was going on with her. I just didn't feel comfortable doing that.
Okay.
So no.
So, and he didn't
Never
come to
requested
you?
her.
He didn't see what was going on maybe on social media and maybe in passing say something to you about
No,
okay.
nope, nope. Never said by the other kids at all. Nothing.
Okay. Okay. You did mention social media, things that she was posting there. Can you give maybe a general idea of what she was saying on there that at the time that was very concerning?
Yeah, there was some Instagram photos of like just making mention about smoking weed. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I saw pictures from Instagram of like what like pipes, like glass pipes.
Bongs
I
and
saw
things like that.
right, right, that kind of thing. Nothing more than that. I
Okay.
never saw it more than that.
Okay. So no needles or
No,
lines
no,
of white powder on mirrors. I mean, to be very cliche, nothing like that.
right, right, nothing like
Okay.
that. No, it was all, the marijuana. Um, Before she went missing, like when I started noticing her going downhill, she didn't even post any more of that online. That was like way
Mm.
back when I first realized that, maybe she had some issues, going on with but I only thought it was the marijuana. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, and it started coming a little bit deeper, and especially after she went missing, then, that was like a huge wake up call.
Okay. All right. So we have these things going on, and seems to be a little out of control. Did she stay in school? Did she drop out of school? What happened there?
She She dropped out of school about a year and a half, right when
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned to you that I kind of noticed and kind of started questioning some things. And she did. She dropped out of high school, and that was the point in time that I begged her to move, where I was, so I could at least, I just thought it was really important to get her graduated. So,
Mm-hmm.
Samantha lived with me her senior year, half of it just like what Hunter did.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wanting Desiree to live with me for that senior year, so I could at least get her graduated from high school. So she at least had that, but she refused.
Okay. And what was she doing for money? What were I mean, I don't know if she
That
could
is
be able to hold down a job. What was she doing for that?
I remember her having a couple of little like jobs around the Liberty area, which is where she's from. I remember having some jobs in the Liberty area, but nothing concrete, and none of them ever, like stayed long term. And then
Mm-hmm.
she didn't work for quite some time before she went missing. I don't remember her having a job.
Okay.
Probably in the year before she went missing.
Okay. And I have to ask this only because all the listeners know. I mean, we've covered many cases where both young men and young women get wrapped up in drugs, and I mean, drugs are a very common topic on Unfound after
Right.
115 cases. But mainly of course, mainly when it comes to women, do you think that she got involved in any prostitution or anything like that during this? Because that
We had,
sometimes pops up in these cases.
yeah, we've had some tips of that, especially with this one male person that is involved, that she would go down and stay with
Mm-hmm.
for days, or I am guessing by some of the messages in her messenger that I've seen, she was down there for quite some time, each time she went, it was days to a week or, something like that she would stay down there. I have questioned that. I have nothing in concrete that says that she was. There are no
Mm.
facts that support that, but I
Okay.
have questioned that myself of what was happening with that.
Okay, and so that I mean, what you're also saying is there are no charges were ever brought against her for solicitation or anything like that.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
Nothing
Okay.
to disprove it, nothing to prove it. Right. But yes,
Oh,
I've questioned the same thing, how she was surviving with no job. How?
okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. All right. So we come to 2017. Like you said, she's spending time a lot away from home, both away from you and away from her mother, Patty. Um, Not sure what she's doing during this time. Maybe she has some jobs, maybe she doesn't. We don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
I did read somewhere though that is it possible that she did have a boyfriend at the time? I mean, would this be a
She did.
boyfriend in the traditional sense, or do you know him? What do you know about that?
Yeah, she had a boyfriend at the time, and he's a nice kid. He was a very stable kid. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
helped churches and still stays in contact. And I think that was the reality. Um, was him. That was like her reality, if that makes sense. But then she could go, when like she was at home. But then she could go down to this area in South KC, and he was no longer her reality, and she would do what she wanted down there, if that makes sense. He was a grounded person. He had a good job. He was stable. I wish that
Mm-hmm.
she would have stayed with him, and I'm sure that he wishes that too. I know he does. He just seems like a really nice kid. He seems like a nice
Okay.
kid. So I didn't know who he was before Desi went missing. I had no idea who he was, but I have met him since.
And we're not going to use his name, but what is what has he said about the relationship? I mean, her going away for like a week, that doesn't sound like a serious relationship. And what has he
I
said
think
about
he
the
tried.
disappearance? Please.
Yeah, I think he knew that she had gotten into a wrong crowd. I think I know that he knew, and I think that he thought he could save her. I mean, I think we all did. I think we were all hoping that we could save her, and he
Yeah.
did the same. He was completely heartbroken. When she came up missing, he's still completely heartbroken that she's missing. So, I think that he tried, tried to help her. I really do think that he did, and I just think that she was in too far deep with these people that she thought were her friends, and that
Okay.
I think the tide just fell how it fell.
What would she tell him? If they were a couple, what would she tell him when she was, like you said, going into downtown Kansas City? I mean, did she ever leave any reason for
No.
that, or did he create any lies? Did he any conversations like that with this young man?
Nope, I've never had any conversations with him. I'm going to assume that she probably wasn't being forthcoming with where she was or what she was
Mm-hmm.
doing, because I think that he was trying to help her. So yeah, I would say that, he probably, and I know that she, that whole day, he has already told me that she refused to talk to him that whole entire day before she went missing. And I think it's because she was down there in that area where she
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have been. And so I think she was avoiding having any contact with anybody because she was in that area.
Okay, and you're
So
talking about May
I,
1st? May 1st?
I'm talking about May 1st. Yeah, the
Okay.
day before, the prior 24 hours before she went missing. Yeah,
Okay. So possibly he's trying to call her, text her, and she's not getting back to him. Okay.
he was. Yeah, he definitely was.
Okay. We do need to go through a couple names. So, May 1st and May 2nd are not totally confusing. Just in general, who is Jason Keegan? Did you know about him, or did Patty, her mother, know about him, or maybe even Desiree's sister Samantha? How long had they known him? Etc. Just in general about Jason Keegan.
I don't know how long any of them had known him. I only know from after
Mm-hmm.
she went missing. I think that she had known him for maybe a few weeks to a
That's it.
month or two,
Okay.
but it wasn't. I don't think it was a long term. She hadn't
Mm.
known of him that long,
Okay.
so I don't think they do. I don't have an answer for if her mother or Samantha knew him. I think Samantha knew of him. I
Mm-hmm.
think she did, but I don't have an answer for that. I don't know who knew who before she went
Okay.
missing.
And just to be clear, Jason Keegan is not the boyfriend we were just talking about.
Correct. Jason Keegan is not the boyfriend.
Okay. And there's some another guy, and the listeners will. These are not like new names. If you do some research into Desiree's disappearance, you will find these names. But Mark
Right.
Arzola, same
Right.
questions regarding him. Same thing.
I think that
Kind of
he
like a new guy on the scene.
yes, and I think from what we've gathered from just researching, she knew of him less time than what she knew of Jason Keegan.
Oh, okay.
So these are two fairly new individuals in her life, and she thinks that
Mm-hmm.
they're her friends, when in reality they're 30-some-year-old predators that shouldn't have even been around her. She was 17 years old hanging out with them. She had just barely turned 18 when she disappeared. She had just turned 18.
Right. And how you say they're in their 30s?
Right.
32, 30, just roughly early
Oh no.
30s, mid.
I think one of them is 34 and the other one is like 36 or 37.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So almost 20 years older than her.
Right.
Wow. Okay. I'm not sure I knew that until now. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are a couple guys that will play a part in the what we're about to go through next. And these guys are two shady guys, two guys with criminal records.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, huge, long criminal records.
Okay. Let's talk about May 1st. In fact, it started out that Desiree and her sister Samantha were together. Why don't you go through that day? Just tell the listeners. I realize you've learned most of this afterwards, but now that you
Right.
know it, what can you say about May 1st, 2017?
So May 1st, 2017, Samantha and Desiree were picked up at Desiree's home in the early mornings of May 1st. I even want to say it was even before like 3:30 or no, like around 4 to 4:30 a.m.
Wow.
They were picked up at their home in Liberty by Jason Keegan.
Okay.
They left for the day. They stayed. They kind of bounced back from house to house to house. They made their way around Kansas City. So in the car at that particular time or with them was Desi, Sam, and Jason. At some point during the day, the girls get with Mark Arzola. So they end up, Jason Keegan, Desi makes some calls to Mark Arzola, and then he picks Desiree and Samantha up at a McDonald's on Van Brunt around, I think, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He picks them up, Mark Arzola does.
Okay.
He takes Samantha and Desiree and drives Samantha back to Liberty, Missouri, and
Hmm.
drops her at a McDonald's that is about a quarter mile away from her house. And then Desiree returns with Mark Arzola back down to South Casey.
Okay, just because I've been through Kansas City, never have hung out in the city. For all those people that have never been there, can you describe maybe how far it is from South Kansas City, maybe where Mark Arzola lives, to Liberty, Missouri, where Patty lives, Samantha and Desiree's mother, and where Samantha got dropped off that day? How many miles? How long would it take to drive that?
So Van Brunt, the McDonald's on Van Brunt that they were left at and met Mark Arzola, where they switched cars and got in with Mark Arzola, it is about 20 minutes
Hmm.
from that McDonald's to the McDonald's that Samantha was dropped off at in Liberty, Missouri. From the McDonald's in Liberty, Missouri, it is probably about a quarter, maybe a half a mile from McDonald's in Liberty back to Desiree's house where Samantha ended up at.
Okay. Do we know of any reason that Mark did just not drive Samantha totally back to the house? Did she want to stop at McDonald's to get something to eat? Was she meeting someone there? Any idea? Almost 2 years later.
No, I have no idea, and I question that. I still think about that every single day. I think
Okay.
about that. Why the McDonald's in Liberty? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you? They were picked up at home. Why weren't they just taken back? I mean, that could have saved Desiree's life had Patty been at home.
Yeah.
To get Desiree out of the car. Why did Desiree stay with him? Why?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I
And
still think.
just to ask you, Samantha has never given either she has no, I mean, really, she has no responsibility to tell you anything if you ask her. The only really responsibility she has is that the police come asking around, maybe asking that. Has Samantha ever stated, to your knowledge, a reason that happened?
No, nope. And I don't think I've ever really questioned Samantha about why she was dropped off at that McDonald's
Okay.
instead of being taken home. I
Okay.
only have my own opinion about that. My own
Mm-hmm.
opinion about that is because Desiree probably was on something at the time and didn't want to be driven home by the off chance that her mother might have been there and come out to the car, if she was in the
Mm-hmm.
car with Mark and she was messed up. So that
Okay.
is just totally my opinion, but it's something that I have, questioned myself. So I have
Okay.
never asked Samantha and talk to Samantha about that part at
Okay.
all.
And we have to understand that Samantha is the older sister of Desiree. How many years separate them?
Desi is 18 and Samantha is 26.
All right, so 8 years difference.
Yeah.
And has Samantha ever said, why? I mean, it's a 20-minute drive. Why she came back to the house at all? Why she did not continue to hang out with Mark, Jason, and whoever else? Why did she come home and Desiree stay with them? Any
Yeah,
explanation?
I don't have an answer for that either. I
All
wish I
right.
did,
And it's
but I
possible
don't.
that maybe she has given a reason to the police, but you don't know about that.
Correct.
Okay.
I know that she was questioned the next day. I know she was questioned, or I'm sorry, when the missing person report was filed and they
Mm-hmm.
finally started asking people. I know that she was one of them that was questioned as well too. I'm unaware of what the questions were or what the answers were. I'll probably never get those answers, so
Okay.
I'm not sure what they
Okay.
were told.
All right. So the answer may be out there. It's just that it's not a public answer. Very well could be that under questioning by the police, Samantha gave an answer to the investigators, but we don't know what that is. We just don't.
Correct.
Okay. We just don't know.
Right.
Okay. All
Right.
right. This would also have been the day, just to remind the listener something. This is the same day that Desiree's boyfriend was trying to call her and text her, and she was avoiding him, or not, at least not
Right.
answering. Okay.
Right.
And has Samantha at least verified that Desiree, just to put it bluntly, was alive when she got dropped off at the McDonald's that day? It was the three of them, and Desiree was in the car with Mark, and it was Samantha who got up. Then Mark and Desiree left.
Correct.
That's okay. All right. Did and we're gonna get into some of the phone stuff in a bit, but did Desiree after that talk to anybody outside of Mark and Jason? Any friends? Did she make any posts on social media, Facebook, Instagram, anything like that after Samantha was dropped off to go home?
She did. Desi was a one of those people on Facebook and social media that would constantly be on social media. She used to drive me crazy on Facebook because she would constantly be sharing stuff, in the
Mm-hmm.
feed. She continues to share stuff the rest of the day. She continues to share stuff, and then all of a sudden, around 3 a.m, it just shuts off. She's gone off of social media, and
May
she's never
2nd.
returned.
Just so we're clear, May
Right,
2nd,
May 2nd.
the next day.
Right,
Okay.
right. Early morning hours of May 2nd.
What were those posts? What were the content of them, just in general?
They were they were just like little memes or little like articles that she would share, just funny pictures. She was just constantly sharing that stuff on Facebook. I mean, like constantly sharing it. So when we look back at Facebook, if you look back at her Facebook, she really does stop. I mean, everything on her social media account, stopped in those early morning hours of May 2nd.
Okay. Would you say that those posts that were made on May 1st into May 2nd are consistent with what she had posted on her account in the past? Or I guess what I'm saying, is it possible that maybe somebody else was making those posts? How do you look at them?
It's absolutely possible because nothing, she never typed anything out with them. It was always stuff that she was constantly sharing on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. She would share different things. So
Well, was
yeah,
that
totally
her
possible.
common use of social media, just reposting
It was.
memes and things? So
Uh-huh.
okay.
Yeah, reposting and then like tagging her mom and stuff. Just funny little pictures or stuff like that. Yes, it was totally how she was on social media. We do have one person that we came across in her messenger that she did video chat with, and we have spoke to the person, and
Mm-hmm.
they did confirm that they actually spoke to her in the early morning hours of May 2nd before
And
her phone shuts off last
all
time.
right, so would that be 1 in the morning, May 2nd?
Uh, I
Just
want to say it was like 2:09
oh,
a.m. is when
okay.
the call. It was a video chat, and the girl that she called swears that it was a video chat, so she had to have seen
Mm-hmm.
Desiree still alive at 2:09 a.m.
Okay, so it's very close to when the phone was shut off.
Correct.
Okay, that's
Right.
interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
what what is the on the record, not that say that it's the truth, but what do you understand? Once again, I know you found out this afterwards, but what happened after? Where did Desiree go with Mark after they dropped Samantha off at that McDonald's? What did they do?
So Desiree makes calls. She makes some messages that she is down in South Kansas City with Monkey, and she makes messages back and forth to Jason that she's waiting for him. She's been waiting all night. She keeps repeating that she just wants to go home. I'm tired. I haven't slept. I just want to go home. Was one of her final messages to him before he calls her through the messenger, and then Mark Arzola also goes by his drug name on the street. His name on the street is Monkey, right? So she's with him, and they go back to Mark's house. And around, I think, I want to say around 3-4 in the morning, Jason Keegan comes over and picks. Oh, nope, I'm wrong. It is like 11:30.
Okay.
Like 11:30. Jason Keegan has Desiree.
Okay.
Monkeys. Okay, so by 2 a.m., she's picked up from Monkey's house by Jason Keegan by 2 a.m. on May
2nd.
The 2nd.
Okay.
Right, and he
so
claims
please, and so Jason picks Desiree up from Mark's, and they go for a ride. And what does he say happened next?
Well, we've never got to speak to him.
Okay.
So the only one that I've ever been able to speak to is Mark Arzola, and he claims that Jason Keegan came over to his house, around that time, in between midnight, 2 a.m., somewhere in there, and that Desiree leaves with him from Mark Arzola's house, and Mark says that that's the last time that he saw Desiree.
Okay.
So Jason Keegan has Desiree. He comes to pick her up from Mark Arzola's, and he's in a silver truck, and he takes her and leaves. Nobody ever hears from her again. From what we have come to find out, her phone shuts off at 4:11 a.m. Her phone goes dead, and her phone never comes back on.
Okay.
So the police have verified with me that her phone is shut off. Her phone doesn't die. The battery's not dead. The phone is shut off by somebody, or possibly broken, at 4:11 a.m.
And where did it last ping from? In what location? Is this is it Mark's house, or is it Jason's house?
No,
what general location is it where her phone pings last?
It is the South Kansas City area, and it's around 83rd and Hillcrest. There's a couple of towers out there, and that is where her phone pings at for the very last time at 4:11 a.m.
Okay. And to your knowledge, did Jason's phone ping around that same area at the same time?
It did, yeah. Jason and Desiree's phone both together at this location on Desi's last ping.
Okay. So, if we're to believe this, it's just Jason and Desiree together. And once again, this is the on the record. As far as we know, according to what some people would say, we don't know if they're believable or not, but then you have some phone information that I want to talk about a little more in a second. So if we're going to the general idea is that she's at Mark's, Jason comes, picks her up, they go somewhere, her phone does not die. The police believe it was shut off. Did not die, was shut off. I'm not sure how they tell the difference, but maybe they can do that. And then that's the last her phone ever pops up again.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So let's move on to this. When does anybody realize that Desiree is missing?
I think Patty started questioning it within the next day, just because it was out of the norm for her not to contact Patty. Like, she usually always made contact. She was on social media, like I said. She was constantly on her phone. I mean, her phone was constantly in her hand. She was constantly texting, messaging, doing all kinds of stuff with her phone or on social media, and there's just nothing. So Patty calls Liberty Police Department within, the 24 hours since she'd been missing. Patty calls Liberty Police Department, and of course they tell her because she's 18, newly 18, they have to wait a certain period of time before they can, come and take a report on her being missing because she is an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was 72 hours that they had to wait before they could officially say that she was missing.
Okay.
So 72 hours went by before anybody was questioned. Anybody down in South Kansas City was asked about her whereabouts at all. It had been a couple of days.
Okay. Where were you when you found out about this? How long after May 2nd, or maybe you found out on May 2nd? How long on May 2nd or after May 2nd did you find out that Desiree was missing? We also have to remember, it seems to me that, she would go away for a week at a time, anyway. So
Right.
what made this time maybe a little different than all of, once again, in your recollection, what made this particular time different than all those other times when she would kind of go away for days?
I think because there wasn't any contact at all. Even
Okay.
if she was down in that area and staying with these people, she still had contact with her mother. She was texting her mom. She, like I said, she was on social media all the time, just like an 18-year-old girl would be. She was on there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, using Snapchat, using the, Instagram, whatever she was using at the time, Facebook. So it was just very odd that everything stopped. And I think that's what scared her mother the most, was because everything just stopped. And
Right.
they knew that it was not, it was out of the norm for her.
Okay. And when did you find out? Where were you? What did you think? What were you doing when you found out that Desiree was missing?
I didn't find out until a few days later. I didn't find out, and I
Mm-hmm.
found out on social media, the
Okay.
City of Liberty Facebook page. They plastered Desiree's missing flyer on
Mm.
their Facebook, and all my friends started messaging me and sending it to me and asking me if I was aware that she was missing, and that's how I found out.
Okay. If you can say, how did her father react?
Uh, I just typical him. No, no. I don't even know how to answer that, honestly. I don't know what he was feeling or thinking. Everybody handles this kind of thing differently, and he
Mm-hmm.
definitely handled it differently than what I would have or could have.
Okay. Um, did he have any interaction with Patty, of course, his ex-wife, being that
No.
Desiree is their child biologically? Any
Yeah, no.
conversations between them that you knew about, talking about Desiree and where she could have gone, anything like that?
No, it was me that made the contact with Patty. I had to end up contacting Patty, and I was also in contact with Kayla and Samantha at the point, or Kayla, not so much Samantha, but Kayla, the oldest daughter. I contacted her and tried to get as much information as I could of, what they knew so far, and then ended up contacting Patty myself. And from that point on, Patty and we started making the flyers and started, getting the ball rolling for our family to do something,
Mm-hmm.
because we knew the police weren't going to do what we would do.
Right.
And I know Pat had already they had already made some flyers up and taken them down in the South KC area and had hung them up to different areas. But the problem is we didn't have any of the information yet, so nobody even knew what area she had gone back to.
Yeah, at that point, you didn't
Nobody
know about this
really.
Hillcrest and 83rd
Uh, no,
location.
we didn't have some pings. We had nothing. So all Patty had to go by was, that she had been in the South Casey area that day, the
Mm-hmm.
previous day. So I know she headed down there right away and did flyers and hung up, what she could. And then once her and I got together and got on the same page together, we were able to make the Facebook group that we have now called Bring Desirea Ferris Home.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to start working together at that point and getting searches planned. We started searching by foot. We started, we just started the ball rolling is what ended up happening
Yeah.
after that period of wait.
Okay. And so you say that 3 days later, let's just pick May 5th, Patty finally got a missing persons report filed to the police.
Right.
Um, what what did they do? And when did Jason and Mark's names, pop up in all of this?
Well, so once the waiting period's over and they were able to make her an official missing person, that's when they started pulling people in. And I think they were able to get enough information from Samantha, and out of her social media and her, maybe her phone and stuff. I'm not really sure about that, but I
Okay.
think that they made their way down to South KC to start questioning the people that had been with her last. They knew Keegan had her, so they made contact with him, knocked on a door, asked him if he knew who Desiree was and what she, where she was. And he told them that he had picked her up from Monkeys and that he
Mm-hmm.
had dropped her at 72nd around the area of 72nd and Truth, and he had not seen her again. That was it.
Okay.
That was
And how close is
supposedly
72nd in Truth, or spell that, please?
70 Truth. Yep, 72nd and Truth, down in South KC, which is not a very good area. He claims he just dropped her off and just let her go. 2 o'clock in the morning made no sense.
Okay. If you
You
could
know?
spell it, please spell the name of that street, because I know some people are going to go to a Kansas City map and map this all out. 72nd in Truth, Truth, or how do you spell that?
No, Truth. Troost.
Troost.
Yep, Truth.
Okay, Troost and 72nd. And how far is that from the last ping location of 83rd and Hillcrest? Just generally.
It is. Oh yeah, it's not very far at all. I mean, it's within a radius of I'd probably say about 6 minutes in between. About 6 minutes in between those.
Is that walking or driving?
That'd be driving.
All right, so walking, it's going to be 6 minutes. That's a considerable walk.
Walking take
Yeah.
you a little bit longer. Yeah, 'cause you're going from 72nd to 83rd. So yeah, that's about 10 blocks plus the area was a little bit more spread out. So it'd
Okay.
take you a while to walk it.
Okay. And we'll get to the phone information in a second to see if this all, goes together. But that's what he told the police. Would you say that that is a story, to your knowledge, that Jason is stuck to this day?
Oh yeah, that's a story to my knowledge that he has stuck to this day, but none of it matches
Okay.
anybody else's story. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
So you said that then I'm sure at that point flyers were posted down in that area. Any searches done by the police? We'll get into what you've personally done, but any group searches down in that area?
Not around that time. I mean, we're from a small town. I'm from a small town, and
Mm-hmm.
we were clueless. I mean, Patty and I, we had no idea what to do, where to go, who to call, where to start. Where do you look? Where do you look for an 18-year-old kid? So,
Yeah.
we had to just we just had to pick areas and begin with the areas. Our first ground search was on May 28th. Is the first ground search that we did, and it was down in the Blue River area, which is close to one of her final. We had her pings by that time, and so we had some of her pings. We don't have all of her pings, but we had a few of them, and one of the last ones was down in that area as well too. So
Okay.
83rd Street, that was one of the final ones, the Hillcrest and 83rd, and then another one was at a trap house over on Grandview Road.
Mm-hmm.
Was over there. So that's where we started our searching, was in the Blue River area around that one.
Okay. All right. So we got the police involved. They're doing some questioning. Mark and Jason are shady characters. They have their stories. They're probably used to running into the police before. Um, Not sure if they can be believed or not. Searchers are done. Nothing turns up there, and you've been involved with this. I wouldn't say maybe the day that she disappeared, but not too long after that.
Right, right.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's just go what I would usually call this section like the rest of the case. We're going to fill in a lot of the blanks because there's quite a few. We're going to expound a little bit on the things that have already been described. My understanding, because of what you told me, is that when the police um, finally did track down Jason and Mark, Mark had like 3 different versions of a story before it got around to Jason being involved. Can you tell the listeners very quickly what those stories were?
Yeah, Jason Keegan's story, that was the last and final. That was the first and only story that we've ever gotten out of Jason Keegan, because on May 12th, he was arrested up in the Cameron area, and he is now in the federal penitentiary, and he has been since May 12th. So the
Wow.
police have never been able to talk to him again. He is in there. He's not charged with anything. They don't have enough proof to charge with Desi's disappearance. There's nothing that can be done with him right now. So he has been sitting there since 12th of 2017.
Wow.
Mark Arzola, he's been out the whole time, but I don't know to this day that the cops have ever questioned the man. I don't know that they ever have. He came and found me one time when we were searching down on the Blue River area. He came down and found me and told me his version of what happened to her and gave me names and told me this whole story, which later on told other people different stories that got back to us, didn't match the story that he had come and given me. I mean, you know, just all different kinds of things. His version, he has so many versions. But the one thing that has stayed the same the entire time is that Keegan picked her up from his house, you know, between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m. Keegan comes and gets her, and he's claiming and holding to his story that he doesn't know what happened to her after that.
Okay. Yeah, and we're not going to get into all these crazy stories that he told you and everything because we tried not to do any rumorizing and sensation. And these people have no interest, no reason to tell the truth. Okay, so they're not interested in the truth. Even if Mark didn't have anything to do with this, he probably has his own personal reasons for not wanting to tell the truth. But you had told me though that originally he said that Desiree was his place, and then she left in a truck, and it wasn't until later that Jason's name even came up. Is that correct?
Right. He told me that he knew it was Jason that came and picked her up, but then, you know, he told somebody else that he wasn't so sure if it was Jason. You know, he couldn't see dark, but then the next story, you know, oh yeah, it was Jason. He came in and sat on my couch. So yeah, have never, you know, been consistent ever.
Okay.
So he's a liar.
Okay. Was that just a coincidence that you happened to run into Mark when you were down there?
Well, it was a plan. His mother had contacted me and asked me to meet her in an area because she had some information on Desiree, and she set that lovely little meeting up.
Mark Arzola's mother set that up.
Yeah, Mark Arzola's mother set that up.
And he's like a 30-some-year-old guy. He couldn't set that up for himself.
No, he could not. He needs his mommy to do everything for him.
Well, that's telling.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, that's funny. All right, so she arranged it, and so he's there, and that's how you two got together.
Right.
Wasn't that cute? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so so there's Mark Arzola, felon, and his mother's making plans for him. Okay. Let's move on to, so Jason's been in jail since May 12th, 2017, on a variety of charges, and we're going to talk about that later before we finish this conversation. Mark, to your knowledge, has been out of jail this time, but he's telling all sorts of stories all over the place. Okay.
Right, he's now incarcerated as well too, and he's been
he is now.
a 10-year. He is now. And he is serving a 10-year sentence with he has to do 4 years before he can even be thought about getting out. He will be serving that.
Okay. So are these drug charges?
Yes, drug charges, and they're actually violations on many probations from years and years and years past. That's what he's in jail for, probation violations.
Okay. Have you seen these charges? And I guess it's safe to say that these drug charges are not marijuana charges. They're something a little harder than that.
Right.
Okay.
Some of them are marijuana charges, but most of them now, most him and Jason's charges are all hard drugs.
Like heroin, crystal meth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And It doesn't
Okay.
say in Jason's. It says methamphetamines.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the description is that they put in his paperwork. Is that?
Okay. Now you have extensive, as maybe the listeners have already gathered, you have extensive cell phone information regarding this case.
Right.
Um, I have to ask because the listeners expect me to do this. You don't have to answer. Um, how did you get those records? Because they are more than what we normally run into in missing persons cases.
Do I have to indulge
You,
that?
you know, you don't. If it's a secret, then we could just say it. But as a reporter, listeners expect me to ask that question, so I have to ask it.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say how we came across them, but we do have a couple of days worth of pings.
Okay.
From we have pings of Monkey and Desi together, Monkey, Sam, Desi together, and then we have a few pings of Desiree and Monkey only.
All right, hold on.
You know, once
We're going to go through this just to make sure that we keep this organized. What we've talked quite a bit already, of course, about Desiree's pings of her phone, but just in general, what do her? We know that it got shut off at like 4:11 a.m. Make a second, but before that, where do her pings go? We know that. Is that how we know that she was at Mark's house? And where did it all go? Where did she all go after the McDonald's where Samantha was dropped off?
Right, it's all in the South Casey area. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the few pings that we have, that we were given,
Mm-hmm.
they are all South Casey area. The only time that they really leave the South Kansas City area is when they take Samantha back up to the McDonald's in Liberty, and then they're right back down in the South Casey Grandview area.
Okay. Would you say that she was almost constantly on the move? Like she was riding around in
Yeah.
a car the whole time, or was she like going someplace for an hour, then another place for an hour? How would you describe them?
During the day, they were busy. On May 1st, it was pretty
We don't,
busy on
I
May
just
1st.
want to be concerned after Samantha was dropped off. Mainly after Samantha was dropped off.
Okay, it slows down.
It
The
slows down.
pings that are left with Desiree and Keegan, there are 4 pings between Desiree and Keegan that their phones are together. There are 4 pings from 2:06 a.m. when she is picked up from Monkey's house. There are 4 pings before her phone is done at 4:11 a.m.
Okay. All right. And we already know that she didn't call anybody. Sounds like, just to refresh everybody's memory, she had some sort of video chat with somebody on Messenger. So that is at least proof, and that was at 2 something. Could this person ever claim? I mean, now that you've had a chance to look at the pings, where do you think Desiree was when that conversation took place?
I think she was in Mark's car.
In Mark's
I
car.
think that they
Okay.
had just taken Samantha back to Liberty and had made their way back down to South KC, and I think that they were just waiting around for Jason Keegan. I think they
Okay.
were sitting on roads. I think that they sat around for hours before they went back to Mark Arzola's house and waited for Keegan there. So I think
Okay.
that she was actually in a car on a road. Somewhere she says she's on a road, sitting on a road. And I think that that's where she was when that video chat was made.
Okay. Okay. And we should establish this. Jason and Mark are good friends. They've known each other for a while.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
They're thick as thieves, as the saying goes.
I think they
Okay.
do business. I think they were doing business together.
Yeah.
I think they were friends, and then I think they were also business associates, if you want to call it that.
Okay. Now, pings for Jason. You also happen to have pings for Jason's phone, and you've already stated that the pings for his phone and for Desiree's phone are together. Where his pings are, her pings are, up until that point that her phone is shut off.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And would you say, in your opinion, do you have that information in your possession?
Like I'm looking at it. Yeah.
You're looking at it right now. Okay. And would you say that those pings coincide with the story that Jason told about picking Desiree up at Mark's and doing whatever he did? Would you say that the story and the pings go together?
No. Both him dropping her off at 72nd and
Mm-hmm.
Truth. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Okay. All right, so we have this. The pings contradict what he is saying. And were they ever, did they even drive through the area of Troost and 72nd? Did they even come near?
Yeah. The only time they would have been around that Troost and 72nd area is when they were leaving Mark Arzola's house. That would have been the only time that they were around that area. And so the timeline does not add up. I mean, he's picked her up at 2:00 in the morning. He only has her until 4:11 a.m. That's 5 hours. He doesn't even go. They don't even go anywhere. There are like 2 more locations, and that's it.
Okay.
So no, his story of the 72nd and Truce makes no sense at all, according to what these pings are. No.
Okay. And so her phone is shut off, but his phone keeps pinging. What does his phone do after Desiree's is off?
He's still in the South Casey area.
Mm-hmm.
The pings when he's by himself, he's just making different stops, is what he's doing according to the pings.
All right, so he's not staying in one place. He's driving around.
Right, he's driving around.
Okay. And does he end up back at Mark's?
Yes, he does.
Okay. As far as you can tell. And if you can say, how much information do you have of the pinging of his phone after that? How many hours after Desiree's phone goes off do you have? Can you say?
Probably about 8 hours.
Mm-hmm. And what?
About 8.
Okay, and what do those pings show? I guess 8 hours after she disappeared, that would be like noon on May 2nd. What does he do? What do those pings show? Just a general idea of them.
Oh, he's all over the place. He's all over South KC at different addresses, and not for very long. He's making short stops at different addresses is what he's doing.
Okay, up until noon, roughly 8 hours.
Yeah, up until when we don't have any more pings, right?
Okay.
And that's all I can tell from that.
Okay, and now pings for Mark's phone. What do they show?
We don't have any more for him. After Desiree leaves his house, we don't have pings for Mark. None.
Okay. Is there any proof that he was riding around with Jason at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning? Any proof of that? Or
no, there's no proof about where he's at anymore once Desiree's gone from his house. And he claims, when he claims Keegan got her, there's nothing else for Mark in here at all. Nothing.
Very good. And I also have to ask, do you have the pings for any other people for that early morning besides Desiree, Mark, and Jason? If you can say.
No, we don't have any other pings. No,
Okay.
The only ones we have are Jason and Mark.
Okay. So what we can gather from this is that the pings seem to be fairly specific. We can interpret them maybe some different ways, but you're the one looking at the information, and your opinion is that the pings don't go along with the story that really Jason is told.
No.
Not at all. Okay.
No, neither one. The pings don't go along with Mark's story, and the pings don't go along with Jason's story. So there's some non-truth there.
Okay. Let's move on to this. Now, the other interesting thing about this is that Jason's doing all this driving around in a truck, but it's not his. Please explain the truck situation. When did you find out that it wasn't his, and whose was it? What can you say?
Well, at first, when Mark Zola claims that Desiree's picked up, he claims that it's a white truck. Then the truck changes to silver. Then the truck changes back to white. But come to find out, the truck was silver. So Jason Keegan, was loaned a truck by an individual in the Kansas City area that had loaned him this truck, and he used it for the whole day. Desiree rode in the truck, and then it wasn't even Jason's truck. Like, he didn't have a car, a job, nothing. So it's not even his truck. and then it was we found the truck once over at an address, but with the discrepancies in Mark's stories, we had no idea if the truck was really silver or if it was white or what color it was.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, the FBI has seized the silver truck. They found the silver truck. So the I did get it verified by them that they did have the truck in their possession. It has been returned since then, but they did take some evidence out of the truck. There's some pieces of the truck missing
Okay,
from the from the
so,
truck.
just to be more specific on this, Jason's driving this truck around, and is it your impression that right after Desiree disappeared, that suddenly Jason wasn't driving the truck anymore?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's done driving. Right.
Okay. And my understanding is that it vanished. It vanished for a while, and then
Uh-huh.
somehow, like you said, they were able to track it down. Where was it found?
It was found at a car lot, which I would call a chop shop, but it was found at a car lot on Grandview Road in Kansas City, Missouri. The FBI went on the lot and they were able to search the lot and they found the truck. It was hidden in a garage on
Wow.
this lot. They did tow the truck from the lot. They had the truck for quite some time and took evidence of some sort out of it and then returned it to the owner.
Okay, let's talk about the owner. What is his name?
Uh, David Gleason is his
Okay.
name.
Okay. And how is it that Jason Keegan ended up driving David Gleason's truck? What have you found out?
David Gleason is a 50-some-year-old man that is in love with a woman by the name of Ashley Daw. Ashley Daw is one of Jason Keegan's very, very close friends, and
Okay.
she is the one that's driving the silver truck and then lent it to Jason Keegan on May 1st. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how Desiree ended up in it. So it wasn't even her truck to loan out either. I think what they do is they just get these trucks, as it's been explained to us, or they just use these cars, and anybody and everybody, it's like a community property. So this
Yeah.
truck was kind of like community property. And once Jason I'm not sure when the truck left his possession because he was arrested on May 12th. He might have had that truck all the way up to May 12th. And then when he went to prison, that's when she came and got it. I don't have an answer for that. Or maybe he didn't drive it after all this happened. Maybe he didn't drive it anymore after that. We just don't know.
Okay.
All we know is the truck was hidden. It was gone. And then the FBI was able to seize it.
Okay. So David Gleason is kind of a sugar daddy for Ashley Daw. You spell her last name Dawe. David
Correct.
Gleason. Okay, so just to kind of butter her up and provide her in the living
Right. Always good.
situation to which she's become accustomed, and
Right.
then she loans it out to Jason Keegan. Was David Gleason not concerned he hadn't seen his truck for a year, or do you think he knew where it was?
I'd be concerned, but I don't know that he was. I mean, I think that he was just in love with this girl, and I think she pretty much did whatever she wanted to the guy. So I've never spoke to him. I know he's been questioned since they received it,
Mm-hmm.
since they seized the book. I think he's been questioned, but I have no idea what the conversation even was with him either.
Okay. Does um David Gleason have a criminal record?
I
Do you
don't
know?
know.
Do you know? Okay.
No.
I'm just wondering that even if he is a sugar daddy for Ashley, you'd think he'd at least want to lay his eyes on his truck once in a while. But
Yeah, you would think.
yeah, you would think so. So, did David Gleason, to your knowledge, have any connection to this chop shop? He didn't own the chop
No,
shop or anything like that.
no connection whatsoever. I'm not even sure how the truck even made it over there and was hidden on the chop shop. I mean, obviously, you know, somebody had to have known somebody on that car lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it
Okay.
was hidden there. So I can surmise what happened and how it got there, but I have no proof of how the truck got on that car lot.
Okay. That's just interesting. David Gleason. His truck seems to
Yeah.
be hidden on a car lot. And to your knowledge, he never even filed a stolen car
Nope.
report? Nothing like that?
Nope. Nothing. Nope. And it sat there. I
Okay.
mean, it was a year before they found
Yeah.
that truck. I think it was was almost a year before they found it. It was at least 8 to 9 months before they were able to seize that truck on that lot. So
Wow.
yeah, crazy long time to be without your truck.
Yeah, I think that if my Sonata that I drive was missing, I
Yeah.
think that I would file a missing persons report, and I would certainly go to the person that I lent it to, and find out, hey, what happened? What
Unless you
happened?
think unless you're thinking that it possibly was used for something illegal, and
Right,
so the best thing is for this truck to disappear onto a
right,
lot, so the FBI can seize it. So that's
right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, the final conclusion to all of this is they found the truck, got into it, see if there was any evidence of Desiree in there. To your knowledge, did they find anything?
They confirmed with me that they can't tell me anything because it
Right.
is an open and active case. So I know from just what they have said, that yes, they took something out of it. They have the right truck. They know it was a silver
Okay.
truck because they know that they have the right truck. I don't know how they know that it's the right truck, but they have confirmed and assured me that they seized the right truck, that
Okay.
she was in that night.
Okay. And do you believe that this truck was given back to David Gleason?
Yes, it was confirmed that it was given back to the owner.
It's just bizarre how that works, Jennifer, if I may
I
say.
know. I can't confirm where the truck is now. I mean, Ashley Dawn might be
Hmm.
driving it again, but I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
yeah,
And
it
it
is
wasn't an
crazy.
old truck.
Yeah,
It
it's
was a
certain.
new truck. It was a newer looking truck.
Well, like I said, Ashley probably had certain requirements, and David Gleason, it sounds
Yeah.
to me, was more than happy to meet those requirements. I want a new truck.
Oh,
He got her a new truck.
right.
I
Right.
wonder if David
Absolutely.
Gleason is married and what his wife thinks about all this. Okay,
He is not.
he's not. Okay.
He is
Well,
not.
let's move on to this now. So that truck issue, at least they found it. I have to wonder, if it was involved in a crime. And of course, I'm thinking back to the Nico Lisi case, disappearance of a young man who disappeared in Franklin, Tennessee. His truck disappeared, and then he found it. I forget how long later, but it was like parted out. They found like the
Uh huh.
frame, and that was about it. But
Uh
in
huh.
this case, um, they didn't do anything to it, and it leads me to wonder if it was involved in a crime where they didn't. It was at the chop shop. Why didn't they eventually part it out? So,
Exactly. Yeah.
so I,
Right.
I I don't know what to think about that. Okay,
I don't.
okay. Let's talk about Samantha a little bit. Of course, she was around for partially on May 1st until she was dropped off at the McDonald's. What has she had to say about Mark and Jason? Being she seemingly knew them, and did she have any interaction with them after Desiree disappeared?
She has not had any interaction that I know of. And what she told me was is that she did not know Jason or Mark very well at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think that possibly she had only known them for as little a time period as what Desiree had known them as well too.
Okay.
I have not
And
got a lot out of Samantha. I can't answer a lot of questions where Samantha's concerned because I just don't have a lot where she's concerned. She hasn't really talked
right, she has
about
been.
Desiree.
I'll just say for you, she's been a little tight-lipped.
Right.
Okay. And very well could be that she has been very forthcoming with the police. We just don't know. But as far
Correct.
as in the public, with you, maybe even with her mother, she's just been kind of playing things close to the vest regarding
Right.
all of
Right.
this. Okay. But I have to ask the questions anyway. Has she ever explained why she? I know we went through this before, but just again, has she ever explained why to anybody publicly why she was dropped off down the road instead of at the house?
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. And has she ever said anything about why Desiree continued to stay? At that point, it would have been with Mark, and didn't go home like she did? Why Desiree didn't just
No,
nothing?
right, right. I've wondered that same, but no, I have never got an answer for that.
Okay. And has she ever pointed the finger at anybody regarding the disappearance of her sister? Has she ever said, I think that Jason did it, I think Mark did it, or anything like that?
I think both of them. I think that's where she would say, because they were the last ones with her.
Mm-hmm.
But other than so, I don't have any, knowledge of her telling anybody, who she thinks did what to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody knows that they're both capable of something like that.
Yeah.
Just because of the kind of people that they were. So, I just don't have any knowledge about what her thoughts or anything like that are on what actually has happened.
Okay. All right. And I guess you can infer, being that we know that I don't want to hit this too hard, but being that Mark and Jason and Desiree were obviously into drugs, then maybe we can infer that Samantha was involved at the time as well. So,
Correct.
all
Yeah.
right. So I'm hoping that she has cleaned her act up since 2017. Okay.
I hope so. Right.
Okay. Um, your involvement. You've been, as a stepmother, as we started at the beginning of this conversation, don't have too many stepmothers on Unfound, but you've been very involved, and I want to start here. You actually um got to go at some point to Mark's house. At some point, he wasn't living there anymore. You got to go inside. We'll just leave it at
Right.
that. All right. Um what did you see?
Mark's a hoarder. I'll just put that nicely. Mark is a hoarder. It was the most disgusting environment I think I've ever been inside of, and I have no idea why my stepdaughter thought that it was okay to be in a house like that. I mean, it was disgusting. Disgusting. Roaches, trash, feces, food, you name it. The house was disgusting. You had to step on trash to get through his house.
And we just sort of make sure to be clear that he had already moved out of the house by the time you were at the house. It's not like he
Correct.
went out
Already
somewhere
gone.
and then you went in, you broke in while he was gone. You did not do that, for the record. Okay, and we should not. That's not what happened. Just to be clear.
No, the house was already condemned.
Just to be clear, that Mark did not live in the house anymore when you got to go inside of it.
Correct. He was
All
no
right.
longer there.
All right. It's not like he went out to do something, you saw him leave, you broke in and looked around and then left before he come back. That's not what happened.
No,
Oh,
not at
okay.
all.
Okay. When you were in there, did you see any signs that Desiree had been there?
No, no signs of. No, you couldn't tell who had been there. No,
Okay. It was just
I can't even imagine somebody lived there. That's how disgusting this house is. And there's pictures of it on Desiree's group. There are pictures of the house on there.
okay.
It's disgusting.
Okay. And of course the listeners can go check those pictures out. Okay. And his house, we've thrown around some different locations. I'm sure the listeners are going to check out the Hillcrest location, the Truce location. His house near either of those, or what?
Right. His house is closer to the 72nd and Truce location.
Mm-hmm.
Is where his house is more situated in.
Okay. And when you were down in that area, did you have a chance to maybe talk to any neighbors or anything? Anybody helpful down there at all?
We have met lots of people. We have done walks. We have done vigils in front of this house. The house is actually at 8111 Highland Avenue in Kansas City, Missouri. It's in what's called the Marlboro District in South KC. We have done many walks. We have lined the streets with flyers. We have talked to every neighbor we possibly could. My sister and my mom and I, we did a mass mailing to every address within blocks around his house.
Wow.
And we sent her flyers, each and every one of them. We've done that twice. We have taken news crews down there to do stories. We have tried to parade ourselves and make ourselves known in that area as much as we possibly can, that we are not going away until we have her back.
Okay. All right. And like we've already said, you met with Mark. Maybe we need to remind the listeners, how long after Desiree disappeared did you actually have that arranged meeting with Mark?
It was about a month and a half after Desiree went missing that his mother contacted me.
Okay. And he met you, and this is when he gave you all of these different stories.
Right.
Okay. So, please.
There's a recording of his. There's a recording of him on Desiree's page as well too. What he told me is on her Facebook group page.
Okay. Excellent. I hope the listeners will check that out as well. Okay.
Mm.
Am I then to understand that he moved out of this house shortly after Desiree disappeared? Is that how you understand?
It was probably about probably 6 or 7 months
Oh, okay.
before he actually was out of the house by the time
Okay,
we got
so
him out.
all right, so he was still living at that place you described as being horrible at the time he met
Right.
you. At the time he met you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We've talked so much about Samantha. How about Desiree's other siblings? Have they been involved? And I, we're going to talk about Patty here in a second, but other siblings, have they been involved in this process?
Not really. Hunter does not live in the area. He lives in New York. He is actually stationed in the Army, so he does not live in the area. Otherwise, I think he would be completely hands-on. But Samantha, no, she stays really quiet just because she knows what hangs over her head. She knows what people think. She knows all that.
Okay.
So she stays fairly quiet. My kids, her step siblings, and then her other half sister Chloe, they go to everything. My kids, her step siblings are the ones that help do everything.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about Patty a little bit. It sounds to me that at one point you and she had maybe your typical ex-wife and new wife relationship, but it sounds to me
Right.
like Desiree's disappearance have brought you two closer together. Once again, the listeners should know I tried to call Patty a couple times, but I could not reach her, and she did not call me back. But you two have been working together on this since early on.
Correct. Right. Since
Mm-hmm.
only a couple weeks after this went missing, we've been working together on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know that you're a mother, but I realize also that Desiree was not your daughter. You, of course, cared about her. You saw her grow up and everything. I mean, as a mother, can you even imagine what Patty has gone through these, like, about the last 20 months?
No, because I know how it makes me feel to have it be my stepdaughter. I can't imagine the hurt and pain and the emptiness of it being my own biological child.
Yeah.
There's enough hurt as there is right now. She handles it the best that she possibly can. She just cannot handle a lot right now. So I tried to step in and do as much as I possibly can to help her out with that. So she's handling it as good as to be expected, with the circumstances. So I try to make myself available, and my family have really stepped up, and we're by Patty's side all the time. My family is Desi's step family, so we'll see. We'll help her, and we'll see her through to the end of it till Desi's brought home. We'll be here.
Okay. We've talked considerably about Mark and Jason, and of course, you've already told the listeners that they are both in jail.
Right.
For different things. It's not like they got caught together doing something. They individually went to jail for separate issues.
Right.
I want to go over Mark's first. Maybe just reiterate. He's going to jail and he's going to be in there a while.
Yep, he's in there. He's serving a 10-year sentence.
Okay. And do you know, I'm not saying this hasn't been done, but do you know if the prosecutors for whatever charges that got him in jail, do they know that he is connected to a disappearance case? Do they know?
I believe they do, but I'm not positive on that. I'm not sure if anybody has ever, if the police have ever reached out to any of the prosecutors, down there in that area, just because we just don't have enough evidence on Desi to really pursue, that I know of. I don't really know what they have, but they must not have enough because there's no charges on Desi. Nothing has ever been filed for Desi. Nothing's ever happened to any of them where Desi's concerned.
Okay. So you have no idea if the prosecutor in DA's office, whoever, have ever offered Mark maybe a little bit of a deal if he could put
Right.
forward some reliable, truthful, honest information about Desiree's disappearance, maybe in a chance to reduce the sentence. You don't know if they've ever done that.
Nope, but I wish they would.
Okay.
I wish they would.
Right. Okay. And same thing goes for Jason. He is even looking at a longer time in jail. Is that right?
Right. He's looking at anywhere a mandatory sentence of 18 years, at least 18 years to possible life.
Okay. And right before we started this interview, you had told me maybe something that new news on that, something that's going to be happening in April. Is that right? What was that?
Yeah. Well, he's being sentenced for his charges that he's in the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth for. He's being charged or sentenced on April 24th. He will be sentenced, and he will receive a sentence of mandatory 18 years to life in prison with no chance of parole, and that's mandatory. There's no chance of parole.
You said Leavenworth.
Leavenworth, right? He's in federal custody, where Mark Arzola is in county, I believe. He's in Johnson County. Johnson County, Missouri is where Mark Arzola is, and then Jason Keegan, he is over in Leavenworth, Kansas at the federal.
That is some hard time right there. That's some hard time right there.
That is some hard. That's big. I mean, that's a big case. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Once again, same question. To your knowledge, do you think the federal prosecutors know anything, even know that Jason was one of the last people to see Desiree before she disappeared?
Yeah, to my knowledge, no.
They don't.
Nope, not to my knowledge. No.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm not here to give other people work, but you might want to put that on your to-do list, Jennifer.
Oh,
not that I need to give you work. You don't need any work from me, but that might be interesting. If he, they're obviously Jason seems like in the batter of the two circumstances with he and Mark. Yep. And it may very well be that Jason did something to Desiree. We don't know. We're just putting the facts out there.
Right.
But, a deal about maybe reducing that for reliable information, even just to the point of, do you know where Desiree is?
Right.
Might be interesting. I'd certainly like to hear if, that could be done. It should definitely be toward the top of your list because,
I think any of them should be offered anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think especially Mark, and I'm with you. I mean, why aren't they being offered a deal of some sort to give up her location?
Right.
And the only thing I can think of is a bigger drug ring, bigger case, bigger. I don't know. I don't have any answers to that, but boy, I wish that they would.
Well, I will tell you that my belief is probably the prosecutor DAs don't even know that these two guys even saw Desiree that day. They probably, unfortunately, no offense to all of the great work that you've done the last 20 months, or however long it's been. They may not even know Desiree Ferris. They've never even probably heard her name before. No offense. I don't want you to be offended by that, but you just can't take these things for granted. They're so caught up in doing their own job and everything. They may not even know that Desirea Ferris is even a missing person, let alone that Jason and Mark are connected to her.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, um, you might want to let just to see how much those prosecutors, federal, local, do know about Desiree's, case. It's certainly
Right.
certainly worth it the time to put into that. Okay. Um, how's this affected you? You have your own children. You've said that they've been involved in Desiree's case, doing helping you. How's this affected you as the stepmother?
Um, it's been horrible. I mean, it's all you eat, sleep, and breathe. Where is Desiree? What have they done with her? Where's she at? It's to the point that it drives you crazy. I get angry. I get angry at people involved. I get mad at people that you probably know have some answers but won't
Mm-hmm.
come forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just praying to God that with this guy's sentencing, that maybe somebody possibly will get the courage to know that he's being put away for 18 years, that they might come forward and tell something that we haven't heard yet that may lead us to her. But it's been stressful. It's been, I mean, it's just been a bad like I think it's like 654 days that she's been missing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a long stretch. I mean, we're going into, her birthday is in like her birthday's February 11th.
I didn't
So
know
this is
that.
going to be the second
Right.
second birthday that we don't have Desiree. It was the second Christmas that we don't have Desiree. It's the second everything.
Yeah.
And my kids, 13 years with her is a long time, and all these poor kids that love her and that have been with her. I mean, it's just been an emotional roller coaster for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. If I may ask, do you think that has maybe altered your parenting a little bit?
um yeah, I mean, I installed that Life 360 app on my phone, so my
Mm-hmm.
kids are all on where I can locate them if I need to. And it's not out of not trusting them, it's out of not trusting anybody else around them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it alters you. It makes your heart skip a beat if you don't hear from one of them. If and I have older kids. I mean, my oldest son is 26, and my youngest one is 13. So yeah, for my 13-year-old, it's made me a completely different parent than what I had to be with my 26-year-old or my 25-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
For her, it's a little bit different because mom's a little bit more. One of my biggest things is, okay, well, Desiree's missing, so why, of course I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to, ask you a million more questions than I would have asked to begin with. So yeah, it's definitely, made me think twice about every decision my kids make, or that I know that
Mm-hmm.
they're out doing. So yeah,
Right.
it makes you
Right.
question
Well,
yourself.
I
It
hope,
does.
of course, like you said, you have a 26-year-old, but for those younger kids, um, hopefully they can learn something, from the path that Desiree went down. Of course, I hope that she's still alive, and I hope she pops up.
Oh, I hope so
But
too.
just even without the disappearance, that path she was on, hanging around the wrong people.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully your younger children can learn something from that. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, if nothing else comes out of this whole entire thing, maybe Desiree's story can save somebody else, and that's what Patty and I've talked about the whole entire time. Is just that maybe we can help somebody else, maybe somebody else, and we've already had stories on her page of families. We're helping other families now. I mean, we've already been
Mm.
on searches for a little boy that was up in Iowa that was missing, and we're trying to make what good out of it we can make. It's
Yeah.
just really hard when we still don't have Desiree.
Right.
It's really hard to keep moving forward because you want to be you're stuck in the moment. Everybody
Mhm.
else's lives have gone on.
Yes,
It's
that's
it's
true.
it's changed. It's changed the whole path of your life. Everybody else's lives have moved on, and here Patty and I are. We're stuck in this horrible limbo of what our life is right now. I mean, that's what we're stuck in. Everybody
Yeah.
else gets to go on. and we're all stuck.
Yeah, it's uh, as listeners know, it has been heard a lot of times on this program. The not knowing is the worst part. Parents
Yeah,
tell me
I mean,
that, siblings tell me that, children tell me that. Not knowing what
yeah.
happened to their loved one is the worst part.
And how do you?
The second
Oh,
worst part
yeah,
is how the world just keeps moving. People move on.
yeah.
It's not that they're not concerned, but they have their lives to live too. But the
Oh, yeah.
people who are the closest to the person who went missing, it's like the day after the disappearance every day. It's like the
Yes, it is.
disappearance happened, whereas everybody else is moving on. Once again, it's not that they don't care; it's just they have
Right.
stuff to do. You know?
Yep. And we
Yeah,
don't. I mean, we
yeah,
can't move on with our lives because we're stuck back on May 2nd, 2017. We're
yeah.
still there.
Right.
We're all still there. My family's there. Desi's, all of her siblings are there. I mean, everybody's stuck, and we're still back in May 2nd of 2017.
Yeah. You've mentioned the Facebook page a few times during this conversation. Why don't you mention it again and maybe tell the listeners some of the things that they can find there, and maybe anything else, any other place where Desiree's story can be found?
Let's see. Her Facebook page is called Bring Desiree Ferris Home.
Hmm.
I made the group soon, right around the same time that we did the first search on May 28th of 2017, and we have almost 7,000 followers.
Wow, it's spectacular.
We post a lot of info in there. You'll find, recorded conversations. It's a group. I have about 7 or 8 people that work around the clock. We all have our different jobs that we do per se. We work together and we find locations we map out. We just do all kinds of things to try to find her and locate her, but it's all on that page. You can
Okay.
find everything on that page.
You said
Um,
pictures
you know,
of Mark's house. You said there's
yep,
also a
pictures.
recording that you made or something like that?
Yep, there's pictures of all of them. We've interviewed several of them, and their recordings are on there. And some of them are actually made into videos. You can also check out Desiree Ferris on YouTube. We did Crime Watch Daily. Her
Okay.
shows for Crime Watch Daily are on there. There's all her newscasts for channels 41, Channel 5, Channel 9, and Channel 4 are all on YouTube. That's where I would look first if you want to learn more about Desi and her situation. Would be the Facebook page and then the YouTube channel, of course, too. And both of those two places will lead you to the other one. So we
Right.
have them kind of both. Desi has her own channel on YouTube that somebody else runs. One of my son's friends run it, and he makes videos and he puts them on YouTube, and then we also share them on Desi's page.
Okay.
So yeah, if you want to be there when we bring her home, that's where you need to go, is the Bring Desiree Ferris Home page on Facebook.
Okay. Great. And I need to mention one other thing, which I think was very, maybe I say smart on your part, but very industrious. And that was, the listeners should know that you and I first talked back August 2018, somewhere type like that. Couldn't
Right.
couldn't get together an interview. I really don't even remember what happened, but I don't think that we ever did talk on the phone. We just had maybe some emails back and forth. But
Right.
then maybe a month ago, something like that, you contacted me. And what I thought was great was, your attitude was, you know what, it's winter. We can't go out and do searches and everything. Maybe it's a good time, for me, to come on Unfound because, kind of slower in the winter. Once again, you can't get out and do the things that you want to do regarding your case. Maybe this is a good way to keep up the publicity, while winter's going on. And
Right.
I thought that was always using the time to your benefit, and of course
Right.
ecstatic that you contacted me, and I'm very happy to cover this case for you. So I thought that was really something I think that a lot of families can learn about, using the time of year to your benefit. I thought that was
Right.
really good. Thought that was really good. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a bad winter here in Missouri, so
Hmm.
we have had a lot of snow and a lot of ice, so we aren't able able to go out and search how we usually typically and were able to last winter. So I've really tried to focus on the social media part. We're doing a fundraiser right now for her t-shirts, through Custom Ink, which is also on her page. So we just have a lot of different things that we're doing. We did a fundraiser, trying to keep her name out in some different ways other than just searching, so I can feel like I'm doing something for her, because sometimes you feel like it's not enough.
Right. Right. Any last words before we complete this interview, Jennifer?
I don't think so. I mean, I just hope that somebody out there, if you know what happened to her, if we don't even care anymore about the story. We don't
Mhm.
care who did it. We don't care. We just don't care. We just want her location. That's all we want to do, is just bring her home. I don't care how it is. Patty says all the time, we don't care if it's, her walking through the door or us carrying her through the door. We
Mhm.
just need her to come home, and she at least deserves that. She was a young 18-year-old kid, 18 years old. She's never going to be able to walk down the aisle, never have a baby. For God's sake, let her come home. If you know where she's at and you know where they put her, let her come home. Let her mom have her with her where she belongs. Give her back.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I agree with all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the worst part of it. It's just all that, you think all the time. So, and it does, the guilt runs through your mind. It all just plays a part.
Yeah, you do a lot of what if scenarios. What if this
Oh,
hadn't
yeah.
what if this hadn't happened?
And it drives you crazy. I mean, you
Yeah.
saw this week, I was a little bit of a high stress mess. I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. You have this tip coming in, you have this coming in, they say this, they say that. It's probably not true, but
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, it just eats at you. How can it not? How can it not eat at somebody all the time, constantly, 24 hours a day?
Right. Right. Well, I will always be here, to ride those rapids with you, Jennifer, and for Patty too. If you can get back to me, no big deal. Okay, maybe I'll get to
Yeah.
talk to her sometime in the near future. But I will be here to try to do whatever I can for you as you go through all of this.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for being on this episode of Unfound, Jennifer.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that was my interview with Jennifer Ferris, stepmother of Desiree Ferris. I thank her for being on the program. Right there at the end, I thought Jennifer and I happened upon a good topic that hasn't popped up too much on Unfound, probably because I don't have kids. I can be honest about that. And that's the issue of children getting into their teen years, then becoming adults. I'm sure many of you parents out there, especially ones with children who are younger than about 13, hear a story of how Desiree was doing fine in her life, then took a wrong turn somewhere, and wonder what's going to happen to your own son or daughter. And I think that's a topic I need to raise more, especially in the discussion group. Mainly for you parents out there, how does a story like Desiree's affect you? Have these kinds of cases altered your parenting? Have you reassessed how you've talked to and disciplined your children? Even as a guy without kids, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on the topic, because what happened to Desiree is every parent's worst nightmare. As for what happened, I'm sure there is no surprise there are many rumors surrounding this case. All sorts of he saids, she saids, he saws, she saws, he heards, she heards. Jennifer and I stayed away from all of that because there is not one piece of proof for any of it. We could have probably spent 20 minutes on the unsubstantiated stories alone. But I don't like Unfound to end up in the middle of the rumor mill. Really, though, I'm not sure we need a bunch of rumors to analyze this disappearance. Cell phone records don't lie. Jason and Desiree were in the exact same location when her phone shut off or died, and nobody saw Desiree after that. The tough part is determining whether this was an accident or on purpose. Was this an overdose that Desiree gave to herself, or did Jason give her a hot shot, or was it something more violent? This will be up to all of you to decide. For me, I believe the person with the answers to this disappearance isn't Jason Keegan or Mark Garzola. I believe the person who holds the key to this mystery is Ashley Daw. She is the person who should be leaned on by both the police and the Ferris family. She was close to Jason, she lent him the truck, and Jason surely brought it back to her after Desiree disappeared, and also surely Ashley knows why Jason brought it back so quickly. Not to mention she obviously knows why the truck was hid for a year. Hey, a girl like that, she isn't going to let her gift be taken away without a good explanation. She knows. The question is she ready to talk? I'll leave the rest of the theorizing up to you. And that's the program. If you found it informative, please go to the app that you use to listen to Unfound and give this podcast a nice review. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've been listening to Unfound.